Fake news charges continues to be leveled at newsrooms, but they're doing something about it. I'm Scott Simon. Thanks for joining us, and that's what we're talking about in this edition of Simon Says. We're talking about newsrooms. We started this dialogue last summer, and we'll talk about links to previous episodes at the end of this episode. Let's talk about what newsrooms are doing to combat the fake news charges. They're addressing how anchors debrief reporters. So let's get started. News reporters used to be the backbones for newsrooms. Let's use the analogy of life. Reporters were like hunters going out into the field to capture their food. They would bring that back, and then news producers would take the reporter catches, turning them into the meal which we know as a newscast. The anchors, well, you can consider them the maitre d'. When all of this was done well, it was crisp, clean, and story-to-story seamless. Newscasts were fast-paced. There was something pure about that. The public had trust and confidence in what they were seeing, reading, and hearing. But that's not so much anymore. What happened? Well, here's what happened. TV invented the debrief. That's where the anchor questions the reporter at the end of a story. Reporters asking questions. Then anchors directing questions at reporters. It was an invention by TV News to say, hey, look, our anchors aren't pretty-faced newsreaders. They wanted their anchors to connect, relate, and to use a term that we use today, engage. Well, the newscast got cluttered and the pace slowed down. Now, before I continue, I have to let you hear this because it's really funny. It's a train wreck debrief between the anchor and reporter Dick Oliver and Jim Ryan on Fox 5's Good Day New York way back in 2001.
All right, it's back to you, Jim.
Ollie, don't let her go away. That's what. Does she have a response to that? Is she still there?
What's that?
Did the lady just leave?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. We should have kept that discussion.
She's back if you want her.
Yes.
She heard you.
Yes.
What'd you like to know?
I would like to know a response to what the gentleman said. The gentleman's a very effective spokesperson for the company, but obviously the people who live there are not satisfied with his explanation.
Right. So what do you want now?
Well, if I have to teach you how to be a reporter, Ollie, I'll do that later.
Oh, why don't you do that later, Jim? I think the lady expressed herself, and you're not here, you're there. Is there any question you'd like me to ask her?
And no, I'll give you lessons on how to become a reporter later.
Well, I'll give you some lessons on how to be an editor, because I was your boss once.
Yeah, you were, and are no longer. How did that happen?
Well, I don't know.
Here's Ernabel DeMillo.
Wow. I might have sold tickets to an MMA bout between those two, and they might have sold more tickets than they had television newscast viewers. Now consider this, that was 19 years ago, and that was a local newscast. This is 2019, and now we're dominated by talking head news shows. Okay? There's a big difference, remember. The primetime cable lineup that you see are not newscasts. They're talking head opinion shows. And they're the reason why news image has suffered. They're not news shows. They're opinion shows. They talk about the news. They don't report the news, or at least I should say they rarely report the news. They try to make the news, but they're not newscasts. They created their own cracks, resulting in viewers' opinions about what they just saw, whether the talking head opinion was true or not, and then viewers commented to other viewers, even when the viewer was wrong. I'll just target the source, what we see and hear. Remember the reporters I mentioned above? Well, here's New York Times reporter Matt Apuzzo on MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell's show talking about the Robert Mueller Trump investigation.
I think one of the things to really keep in mind here is it's not clear that the president is going to sit down with Bob Mueller, and these questions kind of show why it might be perilous to do so. In reality, his lawyers recognize that there are all sorts of problems here.
I purposely let you hear the reporter debrief response first, because here was his response to O'Donnell talking before the court first a question for Apuzzo.
Can Donald Trump possibly survive an interview like this with the special prosecutor, and how will Donald Trump handle the follow-up questions that he and his lawyers cannot see coming?
Well, we now know Trump was never questioned by Mueller. O'Donnell speculated, and he was wrong. Any wonder why News Image is so poor? Remember, that was a talking head opinion show. The talking head was wrong. So what can we do? One, the passive method is to stop watching talking head opinion shows, and I've done so. In the last 2 years, I think my consumption of primetime talking head shows is down about 80%. I might watch 1 night out of 5, where I used to watch 5 nights out of 5. Get your news from other sources like I do. Now, before you start commenting how pure news sources like newspapers aren't clean, that's a topic for another day. I'm just focusing now on making sure you know what you watch in the evening on television isn't a news show, it's a talking head opinion show. The fake news really is how those shows are promoted. Now, here's the active thing you can do and get results. Write letters to the show, the network, or station. Don't send an email. Send a real letter in the mail and use a stamp. They really do stand out. Email is too easy to prepare and send, and your message is going to be lost in the middle of other email letters that they receive. Stand out, write a letter. Now, if you have bad handwriting like I do, it's okay to type it on your computer and then print it out. Just make sure whatever you send it with a stamp. The people who get these handwritten or printed letters through the mail fear them. They've become accustomed to emails and easily dismissing them by just deleting them when they don't want to respond. But they're scared of printed letters because they're not conditioned anymore to getting mailed letters to them. And when they get one, their first thought is, uh-oh, if someone took the time to write and put a stamp on it, they're pretty serious about what they're telling me. I'll tell you in a future episode about the successes I've had the past 2 years using printed mail to get results when I couldn't get it by email. So there you go. My solutions to you: if talking head opinion shows are driving you nuts, and they drove me nuts a couple of years ago, just stop watching. I watch maybe one show a night out of 5 nights, where I used to watch every night of the week. And when there's something I don't like, I write a letter and I put a stamp on it. And like I said, in an upcoming Simon Says episode, I'll talk about letters that I've sent where I've gotten results. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please share it with your friends and comment on my website about your experience with watching news and changing how you get your news. I recently subscribed to the Las Vegas Review-Journal newspaper, and I read that more than I watch television news. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, then go back and listen to our 2 previous podcasts about news. Recorded last year, an interview with Dale Forbes of Learfield Communications and with Jeff Riggles of Capital Newspapers. Until the next time, I'm Scott Simon. Simon Says, saying so long from the greatest city in the world, Las Vegas, Nevada.